Okay, so we've been learning about the month of Shvat, and the way we've been doing this lesson has been that we were listening to a recording of Reb Shlomo that's available on YouTube about the month of Shvat. So we've done about 8 minutes of it, and I stop it every so often and explain. Okay, so the last thing that we spoke about yesterday.
Gewalt, are they in touch with this reaching beyond oneself?
So the last thing that we spoke about was there is on the one hand, like, the world is like a ladder. Things go step by step. You live your life step by step. You develop step by step, right? Your baby is born, and then develops this capability and that capability, and so on and so on. And yet, there is something about human beings that we have this awareness of that there's a beyond, and we want to reach beyond. We want to go further, and that it's okay. And that awareness, if you don't know what to do with it, right? Either you innocently don't know what to do with it because you just somebody had to go again. You innocently don't know what to do with it because you never heard that there's a spiritual dimension in life and so on. And so you just want more, and that's why people are almost unique among all creatures in that human beings will overeat, will overstuff, will just go more. Actually, saw in a little illustrative chart back in the 50s. It's a long time ago now, 65 years ago, let's say. If you went into a restaurant and you ordered a hamburger and a drink, you would basically get a quarter pounder, and the drink would basically be a 6-ounce soft drink. Okay, now hamburgers are 16 ounces, it's like a whole pound, of meat, and the drinks are 16 ounces also, and obesity in America is it's an obese issue. It's a huge issue. Like, you go into certain towns, like without mentioning names, like like when I travel, sometimes I come into some locations and you see like almost the entire town is obese. You've seen that?
In the Grand Canyon, the natives that live over there.
Yeah.
They're all like 300-400 pounds at least. you just like wobbly, just don't do anything all day.
Anyway, yeah, and I'm sure if you go into any of those fast food places, like like you see that. So why is it that human beings have this problem? Animals generally don't have this problem, right? With the exception of one or two animals. Animals only eat as much as they need to. It's because the human being has some sense of more. I want more. I want more, right?
And it's also a problem of today rather than 100 years ago.
Because we have more luxury and more free time and more disposable income and so on. Yeah, like 100 years ago, like commodities were far more scarce. People had to work much harder to make a living and so on. Yeah, that's for sure true.
I've thought about it before, and I think the Native Americans are a really good example of a society of people that have been completely stripped of their, I guess, whatever you want to call it, their spiritual, their, and now, like, you look at their cultures and alcoholism, and it's just rampant, and I think that's because
that's part of the problem for sure. Because because their culture has been. Yeah. The only thing is, I mean, yes, that is very likely to be pretty true. But a human being also has to know how to face all kinds of adversity. It's not enough to say, I've got a good excuse. It's not enough to say I've got a good excuse for my poor state of health. It's we got to sort of like pick ourselves up by our bootstraps type of thing. So what we were talking about was that the month of Shvat, without reviewing everything that we said, the month of Shvat is related to the physical aspect of eating and stuffing yourself, right? And the letter that goes with this month is the letter Tzadik. Okay, and what Rav Shlomo was saying was that the role of the Tzaddik is to help people realize their drive and their yearning for more and more, and to help us learn how to handle it and where to put it into. In other words, there's nothing wrong with wanting more. It's you should want more, but it's the question is, what is it that you want more of, right? So it's God created the human being in such a way that we naturally want more, but more what? So I want to have more friends. I want to do more kindness. I want to study more. I want to learn more Torah. I want to do more mitzvot. Door again. Thank you. You got to keep him in shape, You don't want him to get overweight. Okay. And that's the role of the tzaddik. Now, okay, so we're gonna go back to listening to Rav Shlomo a little bit. Hi.
Now listen to this deeper steps. When Jacob had the dream, he dreamt that there's a ladder going up to heaven. A ladder is pretty finite, even from here to heaven. It has a beginning, it has an end, because even heaven is finite on a heavenly level. But then he saw, Vehine Hashem Nitzavol of God is standing above him. You know what he saw? You can reach beyond yourself. You can do one thing and suddenly go, oh, you're something else. Gewaltig, you're something else.
Okay, So he's now connecting this. Hi. Come on in. You're gonna cook also? Okay.
Magpie,
Yeah.
a little planter. Hashem provides.
Good. So he's connecting this. Now he's bringing in the story of Jacob's ladder, Jacob's stream, right? Now, so I started saying this before. So the ladder starts out on Earth and it reaches all the way into heaven, right? So, for example, you can have a sense of, like, some people seem to have this more naturally than others, like, a sense of, like, developing further, and they can sort of, like, see further down the line. So, for example, I've mentioned this once, like when I would go into a classroom and I'd want to identify who the smart kids are just by asking one question. I would ask them, who's the greater scientist, the one who has the answers or the one who has the questions? And the smart kids would immediately say it's the one who has the questions, right? In other words, like the Rambam says, Tachlit hayidiyah, the ultimate of knowledge is to know that you don't know. In other words, the person who thinks that, oh, we now know it all, well, they're not going to discover anything new anymore, because I know it all. Back in the year 2000, the Time magazine had a millennium, a centennial edition. You can get the door, Ashley. Thank you. So it was a very interesting issue. If you ever get your hands on it, so they had this centennial edition, and they were writing, like, comparing what was happening in the year 2000 with what was happening in the year 1900. And one of the things that I found very interesting there was that the head of the U.S. Patents Office in the year 1900 declared that there's nothing left to invent. Right? That's it. What else could they want? He didn't think about cars. He didn't think about, it's just crazy, right? So obviously the inventor, the mind of the inventor is the mind that sees further ahead all the time, right? Okay. So the mind of the spiritual seeker also has a sense of, like, I'll learn this practice, I'll learn more about meditation, I'll do this, I'll do that, and I'll do that, right? But even if you're a very spiritually conscious person, as long as you're on the ladder, you're still in the realm of the finite. Because anything that you can think of, by definition, is in the realm of the finite. Because you're finite. We are finite beings, period, right? However, the Hinei Hashem Nitzav Alav, but God is above the ladder, right? In other words, there's such a thing as getting off the ladder and really going beyond. Okay, really going beyond. And that's what we were talking about yesterday. We spoke about Kabbalat Ol. Did you? We spoke about Kabbalat Ol. We did speak about it. 2 days ago or yesterday? Yesterday. And it was doing a mitzvah just because Hashem said, right?
Yeah.
And it was accepting the yoke of God's kingship, meaning to say, you've reached, you recognize that whatever level you're at, you've reached, you go to the edge of your present capability in understanding and meditating and so on and so on. And when you're at your edge, at your extreme edge, that's when you really can perceive that there's something more, right? Now, how do I get to that something more if I'm finite, if I'm on the ladder, right? So V'hinei Hashem nitzav alav, God is there beyond, and I realize that the distance between finite and infinite is always infinite. The only way I can connect with infinite is when the infinite one extends a ladder to me. Okay? In other words, you can build the biggest ladder in the world that you can possibly build, right? But that biggest ladder in the world that you're going to build has an edge, right? You're not going to go beyond a certain point, right? How do you go further? Well, even if you go further, the gap between finite and infinite is always, by definition, infinite, okay? The only reason that we're actually able to connect with the infinite one is because the infinite one is extending a ladder from himself to us.
Is that like election, like a Calvinist kind of like, does God extend the ladder to everyone, or like is it?
Okay, so I've heard the word Calvinist in the past, but we won't go into that. I'm not sure, but I don't think I know what that means. But when you say election, you know, when he's using the word election, he's talking about Asher B'achar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, that you've elected us from all the nations, right? And the chosen people, right? You have to be chosen to be able to do that. That's what you mean by election, right?
Yeah.
As once about 15 or 13 years ago, I was speaking at a conference in Vermont, and the weekend topic of that conference was the chosen people, and this was like it was organized by this association called the Jews, Association of Rural Judaism or something like that. I don't remember the name exactly.
Sounds pretty cool.
And the majority of the people there were in mixed relationships. As a matter of fact, there was one little woman there, like about this tall, like 70 years old, and she comes and she comes up to me. She says, "Rabbi, this is the first Jewish event I've ever attended." She was living in Lake Memphis, Magog, and her husband is walking by, and she grabs him and she says, "This is my husband, and he made me come, and he's not even Jewish." In any case, so we spoke about hi, shalom. So we spoke about the whole thing about being the chosen people, okay? Which obviously the Jews at the conference were somewhat more uncomfortable with than their non-Jewish partners. As a matter of fact, another couple came up to me. The mother of these kids was Jewish, and the father wasn't, and he he was the one who was insisting that the kids have a bar mitzvah. Okay. So what Ben is asking is, does God extend that ladder to connect with him to everyone? Yes, the ladder is available to everyone. Okay. We have a lot of mitzvot, a lot of commandments to do, to be on, to connect. Okay, but there's the seven Noahite laws, what's known as the Noahite code, 7 commandments that are given to all of mankind, that were given to Noah. Understand? And that Noah was the father of all of mankind after the flood, right? So, as a matter of fact, in America, there are communities B'nai Noach. They call themselves B'nai Noach. They are devout followers of the 7 laws of Noah. Okay?
I contact with that person.
Yeah, Rabbi Sutton goes and teaches with them. Some of them come here. Sometimes we had 2 couples that were here recently, and so on. In any case, okay, so that was sort of a bit of a tangent. Let's go back to what we're talking about. The gap between finite and infinite, the gap between 1 and infinity is infinity. The gap between a billion and infinity is infinity. Right? You understand that, right? So how can man possibly ever connect with the infinite one? So it's when the infinite one extends the ladder to you and says, do this, for example, concerning a mitzvah, concerning a commandment, right? God says, here, this is my commandment to you. Well, that's coming from God to us, and that way we're connecting with the infinite one. Okay. Now, but what about the fact that we all know from ourselves and from the people around us, that we know people that do mitzvot and don't seem to be all that infinite, so to speak, Okay. So the question then is, well, how am I doing the mitzvah? How am I doing the mitzvah? Am I doing the mitzvah because I understand it? And because I understand it, therefore I'm doing it. So then what I'm really doing is I'm connecting with my understanding of the mitzvah. Understand? And that's already not infinite. I might have a very, very deep understanding of the mitzvah. I can maybe write books about it, right? But it's still me. Okay. Now, I should definitely do the best I can to understand every mitzvah and to study it well and to meditate on it well. But if I want to connect with the infinite aspect of the mitzvah, mitzvah means commandment, right? If I want to connect with the infinite aspect of the mitzvah, but if I want to connect with the infinite one, I have to put aside my understanding. At the time that I'm doing it, I have to put aside my understanding and say, I'm doing this just because just because this is what Hashem wants me to do. And in that way, I'm connecting directly with the beyond.
The question is, how do you know if you're actually doing it out of that?
Well, you try. You
in other words, I go help people. We'll say I go volunteer in a hospital, and I do this, I do that.
So
I do all this. I'm doing it because Hashem says that I should do it and everything like that. But at the same time,
right,
I feel like this is my way.
You're feeling good from it.
Yeah,
good.
All this, so.
Yeah. It's a very good question, and in general, there's a really big issue of being honest with oneself. Now, let's say I'm not doing it for the highest reasons. Let's say I'm not, but I'm still going to do it. Okay? Like, for example, learning Torah Lishma, right? Learning Torah just because it's God's Torah, right? For its own sake, is a very extremely difficult thing to achieve. But in the meantime, we're doing it anyway. Okay? And just a very special little story. When our son Netzach was starting to go to school and he was in kindergarten, so we were living in Montreal, and Judy is very much into health food and so on, and he'd go to school with these whole wheat sandwiches, which every so often other kids would, like, we're talking about 25 years ago, now whole wheat bread is much more common, even in Jewish schools, okay? And but so kids would make fun of his sandwiches, right? So he'd come home and he sometimes crying, So one day I'm just sort of sitting and explaining to him, listen, not every mother understands as much as your mother does about what's about food and what's healthy food, etc., etc. And at one point he just turns to me and says, Tati, I'm not crying because they made fun of my sandwich. So I said, so why are you crying? He says, I'm crying because they made fun of something that my mother did for me. Right? And I was floored. Okay? I was floored. But you see what I'm trying to illustrate over here, right? Am I doing the mitzvah because, I want to get some points in heaven, or because I think this is such a beautiful mitzvah, I want to do it, right? And then obviously the problem is, what do I do with those that I don't understand the beauty of it? Do I ignore it? Or am I doing the mitzvah because I love God and because we love Hashem and we fear Hashem, fear in this higher sense of awe and so on, and we want to be connected with Him, and this is what He wants, and that's what I'm doing. Okay, so that's the one of the secrets of connecting with beyond, right? Is the aspect of Kabbalat all, okay, and right, you as a mommy see that kind of thing between you and your daughter probably very often, right? Mm-hmm. I'm doing it just because I love you, just because, and you're gonna listen to me just because I'm your mommy. Right? Or right? But you get the point, right? Okay. So let's hear a few more words from Reb Shlomo. Any questions? No? Okay.
And here I just want to share with you, when we see people crying, at that moment they're open for the all. At that moment they're open
for the all.
They're ready to reach beyond themselves.
Oh.
When the Holy Temple was destroyed, it says, Eini Yodamoim. My eyes can't stop crying. What's the Holy Temple all about? Listen to me.
Okay. Now he's introducing the aspect of crying, right? And so a child comes crying, sometimes, hopefully, even though we're adults, hopefully we still know how to cry, right? And so what's crying all about, and we're not talking about crocodile tears, and we're not talking about, I was hoping there's this big lottery going on in New York. The prize is over $1 billion. Did you hear about it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just happened to spoken yesterday to someone who told me about a ticket. It's like over $1 billion, the New York lottery. Anyway, it's actually 2.4 billion. He said. So I said, well, and if he's going to win it, he asked me what we would do with 0.4 billion. So don't worry about it. Anyway, so we're not talking about somebody who, I got to win the lottery, and then doesn't win it, and then he starts to cry. But even there, we are talking about that in a certain sense as well, right? In other words, when do you cry? Why do you cry? Anybody want to? Okay.
When you feel, I'd say, if we're talking about it in that aspect, a mental pain of some sort.
When you feel the pain, right? When you feel in one way or another, you
Something's
feel
wrong,
that
broken.
something's gone wrong, something's gotten broken, something is like, I had it and I don't have it anymore, right?
What about one so sorry?
When you feel lost or frustrated.
frustrated, right? In other words, yeah, and
It could be when you regain something you thought you lost. There's more than one reason for crying. Crying is with deep emotion. It can be more than one.
sometimes you cry
For joy.
sometimes you cry for joy. That's true, correct. And so that's another aspect of it, right? So it's like you're at the edge, and you feel like something is holding you back, right? Something internal, external, it doesn't matter, but like totally frustrated, you're at the edge. I wanted this so much, right? So what Rav Shlomo is saying is that when somebody's crying, they're actually ready for the beyond.
The what again?
They're ready.
Ready.
They're ready to really go beyond. Okay. In other words, a simple example: you come up against the barrier, right? So you can stand there at the barrier and cry, saying, "There's this wall, and I can't go any further," right? But when you're crying over it, it's like, so to speak, we're being a little bit poetic now, okay? But so to speak, the tears are opening up the gates for going over the barrier. In other words, for reaching to reach a higher level of consciousness, to reach a better way of doing things.
Does that connect to humility?
Definitely, you have to have humility for sure. Yeah. If you don't have it, you're not going to be open to.
You can see it like an aspect of a lot of times the something people say is that bothered by something, saddened with something or whatever. It's not until they cry that only after they cry will they finally be able to take that step forward and say,
Right.
Okay.
Right. Then they'll do something about it. Right. Rav Shlomo once said, hi. Rav Shlomo once said, I don't remember in whose name, which Rebbe's name. He said that tears are the mikveh of the eyes. Tears are the mikveh of the eyes. Okay. The mikveh is a ritual bath. Okay? Now the word mikveh is related to what word?
Tikva.
Tikva, hope. Right? In other words, it's like a mikveh in a certain sense is actually like when you dunk under the water, you can't live there. You can't stay there, right? So it's in a certain sense, it's like when you come out of the mikveh, it's like the Christians took it from us by the idea of born again. When they speak about that, it's like you've shed your impurity and now you're fresh to go and go further, right? So the tears are the mikveh of the eye in the sense that you're cleansing the way you've seen things until now and you're ready to see things in a new way. Okay. So I don't know if this is where Rav Shlomo is going to be saying this, but I remember at one point he spoke about like the big mistake that adults make is when they tell children, grow up and stop crying. Stop crying. You're a crybaby,
Not on this time.
Not on this one. And it's like telling the kid, instead of helping the kid realize, oh, you're crying, this is a great opportunity to go beyond, to reach beyond. We tell the kids, no, just don't cry, and that's a mistake. So let's see what else he's got to say. No, button, work.
I'll tell you something crazy. Do You know how infinite I am? I cannot live in one house.
Oh yeah.
Just last week, a boy and a girl came to my house talking about marriage. So she says, and I understand her. I understand
He's
her
being
completely.
sarcastic because he didn't
She
know.
says she's so infinite, she cannot limit herself to one man. Isn't that beautiful? She really deserves so much respect because she's infinite. She's so godlike, right? Gewalt, she has tasted God's infiniteness, right? What's her problem? Nabach, right? She is infinite. She has nothing, right? I'll ask you something. How come I'm living in one house? The Holy Temple is one little building in the whole world. It's so special. Is that really finite? How can you limit yourself? And I want you to open your heart. There are a lot of people going today, I love all religions, it's all the same to me. I cannot limit myself to one religion. It's like this playboy cannot limit himself to one wife. What's the problem? The problem is, sometimes you have nothing. Sure, if I have nothing, I'm also infinite. I have mamish nothing, I have infinite and nothing, right? You see, before God created the world, there was nothing, but, I can also be like this, but there's nothing, right? I have nothing. And here I want you to open your hearts. Between infinite nothing and infinite something is such a thin line. Gewalt is that thin. I'm infinite. I learned from my father Isaac, I have to be infinite. So I have to rape all the women, take everything away from people. I'm infinite.
He's talking about Asaph.
I have this deep drive for infiniteness. You know what Yaakov says to him? You're not infinite. You have nothing. Yaakov says, "V'chi yesh li kol." Friends, when you love.
Okay, so that needs a lot of clarifications. One of my co-teachers back when I was teaching in high school, she went into class and she said to the class, find me 1,000,000 of anything and prove it. Some kids started taking the encyclopedia and counting how many words there were on each page and how many letters on each page and how many pages in the book and multiplying it that way. And finally, one kid just went and said, here, there's 1,000,000 units right over here. There's even 1,000,000,000 units right over here. How many units are there in 1 second that we can measure now? Huh?
Infinite.
Well, that's a good answer. I don't know, but probably. But do you know that how much is a nanosecond?
1/1,000,000th or something.
1/1,000,000th of a second, right? And do you know that mainframe computer companies measure that and they charge by the nanosecond? Imagine for your wedding, somebody would have given you a gift certificate. We have just given you 1,000 nanoseconds on a mainframe computer. You'd be pretty rich with that today. Okay. So what am I trying to illustrate? In other words, if you think that this is that in order to be infinite, I have to have an infinite amount of these plates, right? And that I can't connect with infinity within this one little plate, then what you're lacking is a real deep understanding of what infinite is. Okay. And somebody who comes and says, like, he was being sarcastic about this woman or this guy, He says, I can't limit myself to being in a relationship with just one person, right? They don't know what it means to be in a relationship. They don't know what they don't understand the infinity within a single relationship. Right? And no matter how many relationships you're going to be in on that level of consciousness, it's basically going to be infinite nothing. In other words, it's never really going to be. There's never really going to be any depth to it whatsoever. It's like and so he's dealing with the issue of this drive for more and this drive to stuff yourself, right? Okay, good that you have that drive for more, but be very, very careful. More doesn't mean more of the same, right? It doesn't mean that I'm going to go to the restaurant, and instead of having 3 hamburgers, I'm going to have 5, or I'm going to stuff myself. You're vegetarian?
No,
Oh.
but it's just funny. Instead of 3, I had a big meal last night.
Okay.
So I'm laughing at myself.
Okay, it's okay. I'm just kidding. Right? And instead of 3, I'm going to have 5. Instead of 5, I'm going to have 10. That's not infinite. That's just stuffing, plain simple stuffing, right? But to experience the more in one mitzvah, right? To experience the more in one prayer, in one word, in one good morning, in one conversation. You understand? To experience the more, and so to connect in everything that you're doing or whatever you're doing at the moment, and to connect with the infinite one, and to have that, to have the light of the infinite one be present in what you're doing, even if you're just washing dishes or doing sponge up.
To be like from the saying, "Ezu asher samech b'chelko," like have what you have, and if you learn to appreciate it and be happy with it,
and to go even deeper, and what is b'chelko? What is what is your real chelik? In another word, it's your neshama.
Yeah, it's basically right? To like
your real essence. Your real
that you have. Really, there's amazing things in every little.
That's absolutely, but b'chelko, if you're connected with your chelik, which means your chelik elokami mal, your portion of the divine from above, right? Then you are the ashir, you are the wealthy one, right? That's one of the deeper meanings of Ezehu Ashir Hasameach B'Chelko, who is a rich person, is one who's happy with his portion in with his connection, right? So Chassidut explains that when you're praying, right, the highest part of the daily prayers. Let me ask you, which is higher? Is it the Shema Yisrael, or is it with the proclamation of faith that God is one and I'm ready to give him my life? Or is the Amidah prayer, in which you're asking for all kinds of things, health and livelihood and peace, etc.? Which is the higher prayer? You would say the Shema, right? Anybody would disagree with that?
I would disagree.
You would disagree, yeah, you're Lubavitcher. But she's disagreeing on what she already learned in the past, right? The highest prayer is actually the Amidah. our daily prayers are built to correspond with what's known as the four worlds. There's the world of action, the world of emotion, the world of consciousness, and the world of atzilut, or simply being. Okay, action, asiya, yitzira, is emotion, and bria is consciousness, and atzilut is just being. Okay, now the first part of the prayer, the daily prayers, is corresponding to the world of action. Then Psuke de Zimra goes into emotions. Then from Borchu to the Amidah is Bria, is consciousness. And then the Amidah itself is Atzilut, which means being with God. I know that those are three simple words, but obviously we have to know what that means, right? But so in a sikha, the Rebbe talks about this, and so really asking for forgiveness and asking for health and asking for livelihood is higher than proclaiming my faith and saying, God, I totally believe in you and I'm ready to give my life for you. So
if I'm asking him for it, then I've already acknowledged the fact that I believe in him.
Yeah, but like, imagine. Okay, let's leave that example alone for a second. So yeah, I'm acknowledging that God is the master and owns everything, etc., and He's the one that I need to turn to get what I need. But in the Amidah, I'm talking about what I need. Am I not? That's why Shai is there. That Shema is higher, whereas in the Shema,
That's not where I said it.
Okay, fine. So that's why somebody may have said that. Okay, and in
I
the
said
Shema,
it was higher, but that wasn't the reason I said it.
Okay, fine. I don't want to hold on. And whereas in the Shema, we're talking about what I'm ready to do for God, right? So it's explained in Chassidut that what we're really praying for, in other words, in the Amidah, is we're praying for health, we're praying for livelihood, but what we're praying for is that the presence of God should be manifest and palpable in these things that I need, so that when I have them, it should be clear and obvious and inspiring that it's purely a gift from God. Okay. We've spoken about, just to sort of illustrate this a little bit. Okay. We've spoken about that according to that the way Chassidut defines to be kadosh means to be holy, means it's okay, it's the stairs. To be kadosh is to be transparent to your source. For example, you're listening to two equally good musicians, and I tell you that one is kadosh, one is holy, and one is not. What's the difference? The holy one is transparent. You don't see the musician performing. There's no ego drawing your attention to them. The non-holy one is making sure that you've got their business card, so to speak. They want you to realize, see how good I am? Okay? The holy one is like sort of like channeling the music from a higher place and allowing you, and by being transparent, allowing you in the audience to connect to the same place that they're receiving it from.
You just see
It's
in
not.
them.
It's not about them. So 1 minute, Nuria. So Nuria has a neighbor under Moshav. Nuria has a neighbor under Moshav. We tell everybody that we're brothers, Sholem and I, and I was once at his house, and I was hungry, and he was giving me food, and I literally felt that God was giving me something to drink and something to eat. Not that he was God. I felt I was hungry. God knew that I was hungry, and Hashem was giving me food. Now, when you hand somebody, when you pour a drink of water for someone, when you're doing something for someone, and you're doing it in a way that is kadosh, right? The holy way is to be transparent to your source. It's your source that is giving you the opportunity to actually do this. Okay? It's your source that is giving you the opportunity to read a verse of Torah and to share it with somebody. Right? But if you are giving a shiur, or if you're serving a meal, or if you're helping somebody clean up house, or you're if it's about you, it's almost as if I'm robbing the person that I'm doing something for them. It's almost as if I'm robbing them of the opportunity to connect with the source, and I'm saying, hey, it's me. But it's not me. I'm taking credit for something that Hashem is allowing me to do. Right? So that's the concept of kadosh, right? Now, how did we get to that? What was before that?
Prayer.
Huh?
Talking about prayer.
Yeah. So the same thing. Thank you. So the same thing in prayer. Hashem, I need livelihood. I want it. I need it, and I need it to be able to do what you sent me to this world to do in the first place. Right? You sent our souls into this world, and we're here to do something. We each have a purpose. We each have a mission, right? And I want to do it, and I need to be healthy to do it. I need the livelihood to be able to do that. And what I'm praying for is not just those things that I need. I'm praying that when you're giving me these things that I need, it should be, I should receive it in a way that your light is going to be illuminated in that. Okay? That your light is going to be palpable, or so to speak, visible in doing that, in receiving it, right? So when we receive it, we want to receive it in a way that is, yeah, thank you, Hashem. It's obvious that it's you who's giving it to me, right? And thank you for giving it to me and allowing me to work with it in this world in such a way that people will be aware that it's all you, that you are Hashem Echad. Okay? So that's what's really infinite. Understand? But just, another relationship, another fling, another this, another that, that's garnished. That's infinite nothing. Okay? And so the last thing that we heard Rav Shlomo say is that the line between infinite nothing and infinite something is very, very thin. Meaning to say, you really need Hashem's help to be on the right side of the line. Because you can just, man is very good at fooling himself. Okay? So how do I know if I'm fooling myself or not? Well, thank God we have a Torah. We have something to measure against. Understand? We have something to measure against. If it's my personal concept of Torah, I'm going to get into trouble. Okay, because it's first I'm fallible, and there's an expression when it suits his purposes, even the devil can quote scripture. I don't know if you ever heard that one. In other words, if I'm not really working at maintaining my honesty and my sincerity and purity and so on and so on, I can easily mess up, and probably will. Okay. So that's why, by the way, a chassid has a rebbe, a relationship with a rebbe, because he or she are basically entrusting the progress of their soul to the tzaddik, to the really holy person. Now, what if you don't have such a relationship with a tzaddik or a tzaddikus? Well, then find yourself some really good friends. And a good friend is somebody that has the guts to confront you when you need to be confronted. Someone who has the guts to say, hey, Moshe, you're not doing something that's right, or you're not really being you, or whatever it might be, but they actually have the guts to confront you. They're willing to risk their friendship when they need to. Right? To be a good friend to somebody means I have to be willing to risk my friendship, and that you might never speak to me again, but I'm going to confront you because I love you, and I'm going to. Even if I might be wrong, but I'm going to confront you, and if I'm wrong, you'll tell me I'm wrong, but I'm going to confront you. I'm going to risk my friendship because I care about you so much, and you're doing something that is not appropriate for you, not honest for you. It's a hard one. I know that in the past I've definitely chickened out from being that way, because we want to keep our friends, and we don't necessarily like to be confronted. Now, so by the Kotzker Rebbe, he didn't have a huge amount of Hasidim, because the path in Kotzk was like they were fierce warriors for the truth. In Kotzk, there was no monkey business whatsoever. No, if there was anything that was fake about you, man, go find somewhere else to camp. It was like mamish. Truth was like it was an absolute war for truth.
Around? Is there a Chutz?
Not very many. No, there are descendants.
There's no Chutz Rebbe today.
No, not that I know of.
Do you think absolute honesty can, that's how we can check ourselves, how we can staying connected.
I don't know if we can actually achieve absolute honesty to,
Striving.
but it's exactly, that's the point. What we're really about is, look, we live in societies, right? I told you the story about this 60-ish-year-old guy goes and applies for a job, and at some big corporation, and the interviewer says, "So what's your most positive point? Right? What's the most positive thing about you?" So he says, "I always tell the truth." She says, "That's pretty good." She says, "I don't give a damn what you think." Right? Right. Okay. So we have certain social norms and customs, like, you got to be polite. You don't say everything that you think, right? Keep some things to yourself, right? Okay. That's a certain reality about human society. The question is, what's the direction that you're saying? What is your direction that you're taking? In other words, are you just saying, well, this is it, with certain things we're just plain and simple allowed to lie about and that's it? Or is the direction to keep on moving towards more honesty? So long as you're moving towards more honesty. There's a danger in being perfect or striving for perfection, because if you strive, like Christianzals gives this example, an egg, I don't know the exact word to use, but is, in a certain sense, the most perfect structure, the most perfect physical structure. You know that you can put an enormous weight on an egg and it won't break if it's perfectly in place. You know that, right? No, this is no joke.
Yeah, you can squeeze an egg as hard as you want, it won't break.
If you're squeezing
you're
it
doing it right.
exactly in the right places, right? You can actually put an egg under the legs of this table. If it's done properly, it'll support the table. But if it breaks, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Okay? So the personality that is going for perfection, their problem is that when they break, they're finished. It takes a miracle to get them back together again. Okay? That's Yosef. Yehuda is the personality who crashes and says, "Okay, I'm getting up again." And Yehuda comes to talk to Yosef, and Yosef says, "Who are you? You're just a shepherd who's really messed up with your life." And Yehuda says, "Yeah, and I don't give up. I don't give up." Okay? So, okay, so we're hanging in the middle. So you didn't take notes today. So you make sure that tomorrow we pick up, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We say that. Okay.
Are you really talking more about the reaching for the beyond, reaching for the infinite, and how
That's what we're talking about. Yeah, we're going to continue. Yeah.
Second half of the sentence, and how we can do that through building relationships,
We'll see what we're going to talk
especially
about.
in marriage.
Yeah.
How that can, it cannot be a ladder.
In one sentence,
Yeah.
always connect with the deepest, best point in the other person. But that we'll talk about it. Okay. So hope to see you tomorrow, Mrs. Shah.
Thank you very much.